We are learning about distance, rate, and time. These are the notes on page 15 in your formula note packet. Let's fill in the blanks here first. You can determine the distance traveled by multiplying the rate and the time. Okay, we just barely learned a formula called interest formula, simple interest. And that formula also had a rate. But that rate was always given as a percent and changing back and forth from a decimal. This rate is different than that. This rate is like speed, like how fast something is traveling, right? Speed, velocity, that type of thing. So this particular rate that we're dealing with today in this formula is not going to be, you don't have to switch back and forth between a decimal or a percent. So that's nice. Distance can be done in things like miles, inches, centimeters, feet, meters, kilometers. Time can be measured in seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, years. So regardless of what unit you use for your distance and your time, your rate needs to match those units. So like if distance is in miles and time is in hours, then the rate would be miles per hour. If the units are other things like centimeters and seconds, then it would be centimeters per second. Or if it was months and minutes, it would be months per minute. Actually, those are both times. So let's change that to meters per minute. So distance in meters, time in minutes would be meters per minute for the rate. Okay, let's look at this first problem here. So when we say R for rate, we're talking about speed or velocity, words like that. So let's look at this problem. If it takes about 2 hours for a plane to fly from Salt Lake to Burbank, which is a distance of 574 miles, what is the average speed of the plane? So the formula is D equals R times T. Let's plug in the numbers we know. So our distance to go from Salt Lake to Burbank is 574 miles. We don't know what the rate is yet, but we do know it's going to take about 2 hours. So that means to find our rate, we just take our 574 miles and we divide by our time of 2. Now since 574 was in miles and 2 was in hours, that means our unit is in miles per hour. So we're left with the answer to the math, 574 divided by 2, which is 287 miles per hour. You could write it as miles abbreviated with a slash and hours abbreviated, so miles per hour can be written that way. Or MPH is actually a shortcut way to write miles per hour. If it takes 36 minutes to drive to Provo from Fashion Place Mall and you travel an average speed of 70 miles per hour, approximately how many miles will you travel? I like to write down my formula every time and just make sure I'm lining up the right numbers. This time my speed is 70 miles per hour, so that's going to go in place of R. And then T is 36 minutes. Uh-oh, that's in minutes. That means we have to change our minutes to hours, because notice how our speed is miles per hour. So we have to change, I didn't mean to write changes, change minutes to hours. So we take 36 minutes and we divide that by 60 minutes and we get the part of the hour that represents, because there are 60 minutes in an hour. So we go 36 divided by 60, and that is 0.6 of an hour. Okay, now our unit matches, our time unit matches our speed unit, which is important. So we're going to be multiplying by 0.6. We could have just put 36 divided by 60 in that instead of doing it separately. And all we have to do is multiply those together. So 70 times 0.6. And that means we're going to be going about 42 miles. So that is from Provo to Murray, right? And 70 miles per hour is pretty good for the freeway if it's not too congested. All right, and the reason we know the answer is in miles is because we were working with miles per hour, and we changed our minutes to hours so that would match our unit on the rate. Okay, last one. A student riding a bicycle to school is traveling at a speed of 18 kilometers per hour. She lives 3 kilometers from the school. How long will it take her to get there? So distance is rate times time. So distance is 3. Rate is 18. Notice how this is kilometers and this is kilometers. And we're trying to find time. Well, the speed they gave us was per hour, so time is going to be in hours. If we want to change that to minutes, we're going to have to do that separately. Okay, so let's take both sides of this problem and divide by 18. So that cancels out. So t will equal 3 divided by 18, which reduces to 1/6. So 1/6 of an hour, if you want to leave it that way. So that's in hours. It's kind of a strange answer, though. So another way to do that is to say 1/6 of an hour is times 60 minutes. Because there's 60 minutes in an hour. So if we break our 60 minutes into sixths, 1/6 of that, 60 divided by 6 will be 10 minutes. So it should take her about 10 minutes to ride her bike to school, which makes a little bit more sense than 1/6 of an hour. I mean, they're both valid answers, but one makes more sense than the other one just because we don't often talk in fractions like that. Just makes more sense with our brains. Hey, just as you're doing your assignment, if you run into questions that say a half hour, remember that would be 0.5, right? Or if it's 45 minutes, it would be like 3/4 of an hour, right? But you can do those same numbers by just taking 30 over 60, half hours, 30 minutes. 45 minutes would be 45 over 60. So just some things to keep in mind as you're working through these problems. There's no Khan Academy assignment for this one, so you will be doing just a Canvas quiz to practice, and you can do it as many times as you want.